I'm very insignificant and not qualified to speak on this subject, but somehow I've been empowered by Guru Maharaj and by
Yes.
Rupavilas Prabhuji. So I'll try my best to talk about something, Prabhuji.
Try to mix some mirch masala inside that so that the people become,
Oh yes. So today's
Exactly.
absolutely, Prabhuji. Today's topic is going to be lot of examples. It is complete of Miss Masala. Everything, whatever ingredients you can think of, everything is there in this. And it's something which we all experience day in, day out. So
Yes.
we will be able to relate to this topic, all of us.
Yes.
So I will try my best to do justice to the topic as much as possible. So with your blessings and blessings all the Vaishnavas, with your permission, I will start the class.
Okay. Go ahead, Prabhu.
ॐ अज्ञानतिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदन्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीवताभगतफलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरतं सगन रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावभूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगन ललिता श्रीविशाखावृतांश हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमस्कृते तप्त कंचना गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी परामामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धु एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल, हरे कृष्ण। So Manoli Prabhuji, can you share the
Yes, Prabhu.
yes. So with the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, today's topic, what I'm going to make an attempt to talk about, is the 3 Ds for our spiritual life. So this is going to be a very short presentation. I will try to complete that in like 40 minutes, so that it's a very crisp presentation. Now, in this 3 Ds of the spiritual life, I was thinking about this, that all of us, we are putting so much of our efforts in trying to be progress in the spiritual life, and that is why we all are here, so that we can hear some Krishna Katha, we can hear from the devotees, and that's how we can build up to our spiritual journey. So in today's topic, these 3 Ds are like those 3 boosters, which will help us to speed up our journey and make our journey more soothing and more smooth. So with this, I will start the class. So if you see in this first slide, we see that what we see out here in this material world is a pervert reflection of the spiritual world. And this is explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, or rather 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna says that the material energy and the entire Prakriti is actually the reflection of the spiritual sky. And we see that all of us, including Brahma, who is the highest in this particular material universe, to the highest position. So every one of us are in this material world because of our desires. And it is our desires which are coming out on the material platform, which is making us, move into this jungle of this material nature or material energy. So we can see that these branches which are spread, and all the branches and the leaves and things, they are nothing but our manifestation of our material desires. So we are actually revolving and evolving in this three world, whether it is the heavenly planets, this and or the hellish planet. Now, few of us, or as Krishna says, that the one who actually determines or who has desire to know me, those souls are very rare. And with the blessings and our association with Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON, we have got that opportunity to transform our desire to make us upward journey towards the spiritual sky. So, what are these three Ds of the spiritual life? So, let's start with that. So, we are, Prajik, on the next slide. Okay. So on this slide, you can see that there are, these are some of the taglines of some of the very famous brands, what we have seen in our, what we see in our day-to-day life. If you see, these brands are actually manifestation of our deep desires. In fact, the brand, if you study marketing, it says the brand is nothing but the perceived value. So what does that perceived value means? It is something which we want to associate with. Why? Because we think that this represents us, and that's why we represent with that brands. And if you see the advertising industry in today's time, they actually pick up this emotions, this desire, the hidden desire of the society at large, and that's how they come up with this catchy taglines so that we can easily associate with this brand. So if you see here, there is a brand of a car, which is the car of BMW. It talks about power of your control. So you will see that we have time and again, we have heard in so many lectures that the desire in this material world is to become controller, owner, and enjoyer. And when we say that we want to become controller, owner, and enjoyer, when we say control, you can see this car example of this brand of BMW. It says that there is a power of your control. The vehicle gives you power. So people can associate with power. That excites a lot of people because at the end of the day, we want power to control things. Then there is an example of very famous ad from a company called Onida, which has said that neighbors envy, owners pride. So it is said that all the six anarthas, what we normally talk about, whether it is lust, greed, anger, envy, illusion, all of these things have been nicely captured by this. So it's saying that let your neighbors get envious about and you become pride. So you become puffed up about it. So all these brands, what they're doing is they are they are inflating the false ego within us. And then we have a brand of Nike which says, just do it. So no need to think, just enjoy today. No need to wait for tomorrow. So what we say is that today, unfortunately, we all are surrounded by the weapons of mass distraction. So normally we have heard of weapons of mass destruction, but this is the weapons of mass distraction. And what they're distracting us, they are distracting us from our real identity, that we are Jivatma and we are the spirit soul and not the body. But with this kind of distraction, what it's creating is it's creating a blindness in front of us. As a result of that blindness, as a result of that ignorance, as a result of that forgetfulness, what is happening with us is that we are associating with our desires, and these desires, when they're manifested by these brands which we associate, they are making us more and more bodily conscious. And as a result, we see that how we keep on getting entangled into this material world time and again. So is it only in Kali Yuga where we get distracted, where we have distraction happening? So let's look into the previous Yuga. So Prabhuji, go to the next slide. In the Dwapar Yuga, the Bhagavad Gita talks about there are three kind of blindness the Bhagavad Gita talks about. So it is nothing but similar to the blindness what we have in this Yuga. And here are the three examples of those blindness. So the first one, which you can see on the middle of your screen, is Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was not only physically blind by birth, but he was also blinded by his Matvakansha, his aspiration to become the king in absence of his younger brother Pandu. And then his aspiration was that his son, which was Duryodhana, should become the king. And he was so blinded that he overlooked so many negative and so many wrong things done by his sons just because he wanted to ensure that his king his son should become or coronated as a king. And we all know the katha of how the gambling happened and how he tried to do a lot of injustice with Pandavas. So here is the example of Dhritarashtra. The second example of this blindness character is that of Duryodhana. What was Duryodhana blind? He was not physically blind, but he was blinded by pride. He was blinded by um, envy towards the Pandavas. And with that envy and that pride in him, he created so many injustice to the Pandavas. He tried to kill them when they were just small kids. So it is not that this pride and envy came into Duryodhana when he only grew up. While he was child, we know that how he tried to poison Bhimsen and tried to kill the Pandavas. And then we also have Arjuna, who was also blinded. Now, Arjuna's blindness was that of blindness of compassion, which we see in the chapter 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, where where Arjuna is giving all the reasons to Krishna of not fighting the battle of Kurukshetra. And primary reason of his not fighting the battle of Kurukshetra was his compassion, and that compassion was towards his elderly relatives, especially his guru Dronacharya and his grandfather Bhishmadev. And if you actually see all the three of them, they also represent somewhere the three modes of material nature. So you can see Arjuna was in at least in the mode of goodness because he had that compassion within him. And then we had Dhritarashtra who was in the mode of passion. And then we had Duryodhana who was in the mode of ignorance. So all the three were actually blinded by these three modes of material nature. Interestingly, Krishna went and met all the three. So first, when Krishna met Dhritarashtra, he tried his level best to explain Dhritarashtra that it is time when he went as a peace messenger just before the battle of Kurukshetra was about to begin. As a peace messenger, he went to the he went there to the court of Dhritarashtra, and he told Dhritarashtra that this war is going to bring complete destruction and annihilation of your dynasty. You will not only lose your kingdom, you will not only lose your kingdom, but you will also lose out on all your sons. Although you have 100 sons, but you will be left with no sons. And everybody, all the Maharathis, what you think you had, will be killed in this battle. But Dhritarashtra's blindness towards making his son as a king, and he wanted to become a king, was so strong that he overlooked the instructions, the nice instructions given by Krishna himself. Then we have Duryodhana, to whom Krishna went. And Duryodhana actually had invited Krishna for lunch. And Krishna told Duryodhana that I will not accept the lunch at your place because neither I am hungry and nor you are my friend. And in that process, Duryodhana actually insulted Krishna right in the court of Dhritarashtra and tried to even bind him. And then we have Arjuna, who was in the mode of goodness. And when he was not able to fight this epic battle of Kurukshetra, he turned to Krishna and said, Krishna, what I'm supposed to do? And then Krishna took the place of the Guru, and Krishna instructed him and gave him the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So when he got the scripture knowledge, now we have seen in our Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada has mentioned that in the purport, that there are three ways by which one can get knowledge. And if you see here, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, they relied on the first two praman or the source of knowledge, which was Pratyaksha Praman and Anuman Praman. What was the Anuman of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana? Their estimation was that since our army is bigger than that of Kauravas, of that of Pandavas, there is, and especially we have Bhishmadev, who has the free will to die. He can choose his own place also. There is no war. There is nobody who can kill him on this battlefield. And then Duryodhan also was having so much of confidence in his friends Karna and confident in his guru Dronacharya, because Dronacharya was giving a benediction that nobody can defeat him in the battlefield. So with that estimation, and of course he had his own pride and own confidence about himself, which was this Pratyaksha Praman, that there is no way the Pandavas can ever win this war. And as a result, they neglected the instructions given by Krishna. But on the other hand, Arjuna turned. Okay, I'll increase the volume. It says my volume is low. Prabhuji, I'm audible?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you. But here is Arjuna, who then turned to Krishna, and then Krishna gave him the knowledge. So what did Arjuna turn to? Arjuna turned to the third form of getting knowledge, which is Shabda Praman. And that is where Krishna gave the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So what did happen when Krishna gave the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita? Let's come to the third slide. And the first D of our three, or one first of the D, which is the power of discrimination. When Arjuna got this knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, he was able to discriminate about what is right and what is wrong, and what he's supposed to do and what he's not supposed to do right at the battle of Kurukshetra. So this power of discrimination comes to us when we rely on scriptures, because scriptures are perfect. The Vedas are perfect because they're coming from the perfect source. The other form of getting knowledge is coming from the Pratyaksha Praman and Anuman Praman, which are coming from us, we are full of 4 defects. And as a result, we are unable to create that discrimination about what is right and what is wrong. Now, when Arjuna turned to Krishna, he turned to Krishna and told Krishna that, Krishna, you become my spiritual master. And when he turned to the right source, when Krishna gave that knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, he was able to discriminate it. Now, the one of the very simple example, what we can understand from our day-to-day life is that when we actually are not well, what we do, we directly don't go to the chemist asking for medicines. We don't rely on our estimation of what is happening wrong with us. We go to the right source. And who's that right source? The right source is the doctor. And what does the doctor do? He tells us what are we supposed to do and what we are not supposed to do. So do and don'ts are given by the doctor in form of the prescription. Likewise, our spiritual master, our acharyas, have given us what are do's and don'ts in our spiritual life. And for that, we need to rely on the power of discrimination. And here we have seen that our Acharya, Srila Rupa Goswami, in his book Nectar of Instruction, he has given wonderful instruction, especially in the instruction number 2 and number 3, in which I have presented on the screen. The second instruction in the Nectar of Instruction book, it says, Atihara prayasya prajalpo niyamagraha janasanga chaloyam cha saddhir bhaktir vinashyati. So he said there are 6 things which can destroy your bhakti. These are the 6 things which you are not supposed to do if you want to progress in your spiritual life. And what are the 6 things? He talks about that don't collect funds than what is required. Why? Because if you collect funds and when you get entangled in collecting more and more funds, it is not that you need it, but it is to satisfy your wants. And if you see my first slide, which I mentioned about the brands are trying to satisfy the wants and not the needs. And as a result, we struggle so hard in earning money so that we can satisfy or try to fulfill our wants. So Rupa Goswami says that this human form of life is very rare. Don't use this human form of life in using like that of living like an animalistic form of life. So he says that it is important that you collect the funds which is only necessary for you to sustain in this world. Then he says, don't overdo for the mundane things. Then he says, then don't talk unnecessary, prajalpa, which is unnecessary talking. And today, if you see our social media is full of prajalpa. There are so many blogs, there are so many chats which are going on and talking about what? It is all prajalpa. And people are actually paying money and people are spending hours and hours together reading this prajalpa and wasting such a important time, which is the most important essence or the very rarest of the rare resource what we have in our life. And then Srila Rupa Goswami also says that don't follow the scriptures or regulations just for on whimsically. You need to follow as per what is mentioned, not by our whims and fancies. And finally, he talks about that don't associate people who are worldly minded or materialistic people, and don't become greedy. Now, when you follow this, he says, don't do this because this is going to ruin your spiritual life. And then as a perfect doctor, he says, okay, these are the don'ts I have given you. What are the do's you have to do to ensure that your spiritual life is able to go, is going to grow, that spiritual tree and the desire tree or the bhakti tree is going to grow faster. So what you have to do, he says, in your spiritual life, you need to be enthusiastic. Then he says you need to be confident, be patient about things, because in spiritual life, eventually things will fall in place. And then he says follow the regulative principle. And then he says abandon the association of non-devotees. And lastly, he says the following the footsteps of previous acharya. Interestingly, if we see here, there are one thing which is common in both the instructions. And what is that? Don't associate with people who are materially attracted. Why? Because it pollutes your consciousness. It is said in English that man is known by the company he keeps. So when we associate with people who are materialistic driven or whose motives are materialistic, somewhere it influences our consciousness and it creates trouble for us. So that is where our Rupa Goswami has perfectly given these instructions that what was you supposed to do and not. So when we do this, that will give us that power of discrimination of what is right and what is wrong for my bhakti. So I can accordingly act. Okay. Go to the next slide, Prabhuji. The second D of our today's class or our spiritual life is the power of determination. So where does we get this power of determination? So we get this power of determination by chanting the holy name of the Lord. That is the source of our determination. Because if you see in the previous slide, Srila Rupa Goswami says that you need to be utsaya, nishchaya, dhairya, you need to be enthusiastic, you need to be confident, you need to be patient. But to do all that, what is important, what is required is determination. And where do we get this determination? We get this determination by chanting the holy name of the Lord. And here are the three beautiful examples which actually explicitly mentions about how the power of chanting of the holy name has given them tremendous determination that they were able to see the Lord or able to capture the Lord and see the Lord by themselves. So here is the first example is that of Yashoda Mai. And we all know the very famous pastime of Damodar Leela, where Yashoda Mai's determination is to bind Krishna, and she is able to do that. Of course, Krishna was merciful on her, but while doing so, she was able to bind Krishna, and that was her determination. So, although the rope was falling short by 2 inches whenever she was trying to bind Krishna, she never gave up. She kept on continuing with all the enthusiasm and determination, and she was able to bind Krishna. And what was the qualification of Yashoda Mai? Her entire love for the Lord was so that even when she used to cook for Krishna, her total meditation was always in remembering the Lord. So even while churning the butter, she will sing the glories of the Lord in form of the poems and in form of the bhajans by glorifying his little son Krishna. So that was her power of determination, by which she was able to bind Krishna. Then we see the other example is that of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, the age of 5 years, he goes to the forest to see because he wanted a kingdom which was bigger than that of his father, Uttanapad. And then when he meets his spiritual master, Naradji, and Naradji gives him this Maha Mantra that Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So when he gets this Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he starts chanting this mantra rigorously and with complete determination. And finally, he is able to get the darshan of the Lord. And the Lord comes in front of him. And last but not the least, our beloved Srila Prabhupada. What was the power of his determination? That he single-handedly started such a big institution, such a big movement, which not only stormed this country, but across the world. And in fact, on last Saturday, our Shiksha Guru, Srila Rupa Goswami, Rupilas Prabhuji was giving a lecture, and he mentioned and he gave the example that how one day His Grace Gaurang Prabhu asked His Holiness Bhakticharu Swami Maharaj that Prabhupada has done so much of things, and then Bhakticharu Swami Maharaj said that, do you know what Prabhupada has done for us? And they said, yeah, he has done so many things. They said, no, because you don't know, because you have not yet reached the age of 70 years. The moment you reach the age of 70, and if you have to start, it requires tremendous amount of determination to do so. So we have seen that Prabhupada was able to bind Krishna, he was able to see Krishna, and he was able to make the entire world Krishna conscious by the power of his determination. So these are the wonderful examples. And what was the power of Prabhupada? The power of Prabhupada was He was referring to the scriptures, that was his basis, and his complete faith in chanting of holy name. So he has complete faith in the instruction of his Guru Maharaj, he had complete faith in the instruction of the scriptures, and he had complete faith in chanting the holy name. And with that determination, he made the entire world Krishna conscious. The other example, what we have seen, Prabhuji, go to the next slide. And this is a very famous story, what we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, and even it is mentioned by Prabhupada in his purport in the Bhagavad Gita. And we all know this, the determination of the sparrow. What was the determination of the sparrow? The sparrow, we all know that the eggs of the sparrow, because her nest was very close to the ocean, and the ocean had taken away that the set of all the eggs of the sparrow. And then the sparrow, when she tried, she went to the ocean asking for the same. And but after repeated requests, the ocean didn't pay any heed to her request. And finally, she said that with that determination, she started saying that if you don't return my eggs, then I am going to dry up the entire ocean. Now, of course, for a sparrow to dry up the ocean was not possible. But still, it was not possible in not even in this lifetime for her, but even maybe if she takes thousands and millions of lifetime, it is not possible for her to dry up the entire ocean. But the sparrow had that determination to take the eggs back from the ocean. And when she started doing so, Garudadev, who is the king of all the birds, when he saw the power of the determination of this bird, of this sparrow, he was so impressed. Then he came there and he said, "Now I will assist you." And the moment the ocean saw Garudadev coming there to rescue or to help the sparrow, the ocean immediately returned the eggs back to the sparrow. What that determines in our lives? This sparrow is us. We are that sparrow whose eggs are Krishna consciousness, which have been taken away by the material ocean. And we are actually we're trying so hard to get it back from the Maya because of all the distractions what we have seen in our lives. We actually struggle at times to chant our holy name of the Lord when we are sitting for japa with complete concentration, and it becomes so difficult because this distraction of material world is there. But when we are determined and when we say that I have to chant my 16 rounds every day with complete focus and with complete determination, eventually what happens in our life? The spiritual master comes into our life like the Garudadev. And when the spiritual master comes in our life, when we take initiation, with the blessings of the spiritual master, we will be able to pull back Krishna consciousness from the material world. And with the blessings of the spiritual master who comes like a Garuda, and with that determination, we are able to take back the Krishna conscious back into our life. So this determines that the power of determination should be there for our progress of spiritual life. We need not have to give up. It is just the matter of time when things will fall in place. So it is very important that we never ever lose our determination while we are progressing in spiritual life. And that's where Srila Rupa Goswami had nicely mentioned that one thing he says is that you need to be patient about it. Many times we have seen that in our devotee life also, when we try to perform our sadhana with determination, and when we don't see that we are still struggling with it, a lot of people at times even give up doing that. They say that I'm not enjoying chanting. But if we are patient, and like how Guru Maharaj always says that even if you are chanting mechanical, please continue chanting 16 hours. Eventually, you will come to the stage of less offensive chanting, and then you will come to the stage of pure chanting. But that will require patience. It's not going to come overnight because anarthas in our life is not from this lifetime. It has come from the lifetime of billions and billions of our lifetime. So it is not going to get eradicated in just one instant. It is going to take time. But we need to be determined, like how the sparrow is, so that spiritual master can come and can take us back. The third D, which we should be very much focused in our spiritual life, is that of being disciplined. This is extremely, extremely important. And here, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the canto 1st, chapter 5th, and Shloka 24. Here, Prabhupada mentions that without being self-controlled, without being disciplined, and without being fully obedient, when we say obedient, that is obedient to the instruction of the spiritual master, no one can become successful in the following the instructions of the spiritual master. And without doing so, no one will be able to go back to Godhead. why Prabhupada is talking about the discipline here so hard. Here we see the example of which is, and this is actually purport is from the first canto, which actually is where Naradji is revealing about how he got this spiritual body, and that's where he is narrating this to Srila Vedavyas. And here Naradji explains that although in his previous life he was actually the son of a maid servant, and his mother used to actually, like a maid servant, she used to clean the ashram in which the sages used to come, the great Vedantas used to come. And it was actually the time during the Chaturmas where this great Vedantas, they actually were staying in this ashram. And it was there, well, where Naradji, being a boy, he says that although I was a boy, but I was never attracted to play around or waste my time. He was similar to that of Sri Prahlad, like how Prahlad instruct to his classmates that don't waste this human form of life, don't waste, even if you're a child, don't get distracted in playing games. And what did Naradji do? Naradji was so disciplined that every day he will listen to the katha spoken by these great Vedantas, and then he will offer them service. And with their permission, he will take remittance of their food. And eventually, by taking, he got so much of mercy of these great Vedantas that after he left this body, he got the body of Naradji. And then we all know how great great devotee of the Lord he is. What is the power of this discipline? How do we ensure that there is discipline in our life? So there are three factors which we need to understand here very importantly. The first thing is that the discipline in our life here, it comes when we have a spiritual master. So the role of a qualified spiritual master is very important, because when we go and approach our spiritual master, many times we go with our spiritual difficulties to our Guru Maharaj, and we give them, we reveal our heart to Guru Maharaj, that how difficult it becomes at times for us to progress in our or continue in our sadhana bhakti. There are so many challenges what we come across. And what does the spiritual master do? The spiritual master not only hears us out, but gives us a solution. He gives us that how we have to approach, how we need to tackle the situation in our life. So the role of the spiritual master is extremely important when we come to the discipline in our life. The second role is that of the qualified parents. Here, we being the devotees, and especially the devotee family, the parents play a so important role, because when the child are growing up, when children are growing up, for them, the first spiritual master for them are the parents, and the parents are their first role model. Now, if the parents are not disciplined in their sadhana, if the parents are not disciplined in doing their Krishna conscious life, then you cannot expect the children to follow the footsteps, because they will see that the parents are taking a lot of things for granted. They are not very disciplined in doing so. So why they should even become disciplined? And the third thing, which is extremely important, is the support of the Krishna conscious environment. In other words, association of the devotees. Extremely important. Because with these three things in our life, there are highly chances of us that we will never go out of our disciplining life. In fact, in one of the class which I was listening to, which was given by His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and this was actually he had given a seminar on the book of Nectar of Instruction, and in that he talks about this discipline to a great extent. He said that one day Srila Prabhupada was in Bombay along with his disciples, and he was invited by one of a very rich devotee family, and this devotee family invited them to their house in Mahabaleshwar. So they had a huge house in Mahabaleshwar, like a villa, and they said that, why don't you come with your disciples there and stay here and be our guest? And Srila Prabhupada accepted that invitation, and he, along with his disciples, they went there. And the hosts were really nice. They were really nice people, and they really take good care of devotees and Srila Prabhupada. And it is said, and Giriraj Swami Maharaj was saying that the Matajis of the host, they cooked such a nice meal for all the devotees that they enjoy thoroughly. And he said that even Srila Prabhupada said that normally he may take 2 or 3 chapatis, but that day he had taken like 5. And they had a really nice prasadam there. And then next day in the morning, when it was time for the Mangal Aarti, and Srila Prabhupada came out of his room after completing his translation for the night. And when he came out, and Prabhupada was just walking through the corridor, and when he came across, he heard the sound of snoring from the room of his disciples. And Prabhupada asked his servant that, and Giriraj Maharaj was there, and he asked Giriraj Maharaj that what is happening. And he said that I suppose the disciples and they all had a really heavy meal, and as a result they are sleeping so late. And Srila Prabhupada got really angry, and he said that we will leave this place right away. And Giriraj Maharaj was telling him that it's not right for us to leave this house because the hosts are still sleeping. And he said, okay, we'll wait for the host to get up. And by the time the hosts were, when they got up and they came down, Prabhupada was already packed his bags, and all the disciples were waiting at the gate so that they can take permission, they can leave. And Prabhupada said that, I'm not feeling well, and as a result, I need to leave. And that's how they made. And Prabhupada, and then when Giriraj Swami Maharaj asked, and Prabhupada said that I will never ever compromise, because if I compromise here in letting this devotee sleep during the Mangal Aarti, it will destroy everything. That were the words of Srila Prabhupada. It will destroy everything. So you can understand how important is discipline in our life, discipline in our spiritual life. The last example I want to talk about in discipline here, you can see, is our very famous pastime of Ajamil. We all know what happened with Ajamil. And here in Ajamil's story, Prabhuji, wait, let me just finish that. Ajamil had seen this prostitute and other man in some compromising position, and that triggered lot of desire for sensual enjoyment within him. Unfortunately, the fall down of Ajamil was because he never had a spiritual master whom he could have approached, and he could have discussed that how distracted or how in despair he is not able to concentrate because he has seen something here. And neither he had a Vaishnava family which could have taken him, or he could have approached his parents. And neither he had a Krishna conscious devotees association, because of which there was nobody he could have consulted about this desires of sensual gratification which was coming in him. And what did he do? He consulted his own mind for it. And we all know what the mind does in this material nature. The mind is our biggest enemy. And as a result, when he consulted his mind, the mind told him it is time that you should enjoy. And we see that how the fall down of Ajamil happened. So this is the very nice example. We should understand that how discipline becomes so important in our sadhana bhakti. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Now, here are the three devotees or the three great personalities who were actually faced the similar situations, and their response was different. So who's the first one? The first one is Srila Sukdev Goswami. And what happened with Srila Sukdev Goswami? Srila Sukdev Goswami, when he came out from his mother's womb, was already the age of 16-year-old. And he immediately came out, and he immediately walked out of the house. And you can see in this picture, Srila Vedavyas is running behind Srila Sukdev Goswami. And while he is crossing, there are some girls who are taking bath in the river. And we all know that none of the women who are there in this, who are taking a bath, they never even covered them seeing Srila Sukdev Goswami walking. But then they see Srila Vedavyas, they covered themselves. Why? And then it made no difference to Srila Sukdev Goswami. He immediately walked away. The second example is that of Srila Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, while he was chanting his japa in his cave, first of all, he was approached by a prostitute who had actually come there to allure Srila Haridas Thakur so that he can stop. So that it was we all know the pastime, what has happened there, and that how the brahmanas of that, the head of all the brahmana, wanted the downfall of Srila Haridas Thakur so that his popularity comes down. And he had sent this prostitute so that she can allure Srila Haridas Thakur and can distract him. And what to speak about this prostitute? Srila Haridas Thakur was also approached by Maya Devi herself. And Srila Haridas Thakur was not even distracted by all this thing. He said that, let me complete my my chanting of my rounds, and then I will fulfill your desire. So this was the example of Srila Haridas Thakur. And last here in this picture, what we see is Shabra Rishi or Sabra Muni. The pastime of Shabra Muni was that he was such a great yogi that and he had perfected the 8 siddhis, and it's such a great yogi to concentrate. He went down because he said, I don't want any distraction. He went down in the middle of the ocean to perform his sadhana. He had that much of power to control his breath and even perform his sadhana down in the ocean. And what happened with him was he saw the two fish mating. And as a result, just seeing the two fish mating, he completely lost his composure. All his sadhana, all his determination, all his discipline went for a toss. And he immediately could not resist seeing that, and he came out of the ocean. And when he came out of the ocean, he went and he approached a king by name Mandhata. And this king Mandhata had 50 daughters. And so this Shabra Rishi, when he went to the king, and of course, during that time, the custom was that the king will never say no to the Brahmana who comes there. And he asks Shabra Rishi that what is it like, I can now serve you? And Shabra Rishi, out of this desire for sex attraction or sensual gratification, he said, I want to get married to one of your daughters. And his condition was that he was completely skinny, and he was, because he, after doing tapasya for so many years, his skin was, he was completely skinny, and he was not very attractive, and none of the girls wanted to marry him. And Shabramishi understood that with this kind of physique he will not be able to get married, or can get the queens to get married to him. So by his mystic power, he transformed himself into a very young, youthful man. And all the 50 queens or 50 daughters of this king, they all got married to him. And he begetted many children out of this 50 queens of it. Now, what is that it happened for which the Shabramuni fell down happened? So if you see, even to do yoga, you require discipline, you require determination. The problem with him was that he never ever relied on the scriptures. But what happened with the other two? Why did Srila Sukhdev Goswami and Srila Haridas Thakur didn't fell down from their position? Srila Sukhdev Goswami disciplined, his determination and his differentiation of distinction was happened because the power of knowledge. He had the complete knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was given by his father Srila Vedavyas. And with his complete faith in the scripture, his discipline, his determination, and his power of distinction or differentiation was so strong that it made no difference. He used to see everybody on the spiritual platform. He made no distinction between who is male and who is female. For him, everybody was the same because he was seeing everybody on the spiritual platform. And that is what was giving him the power of to progress in his spiritual life. For Srila Haridas Thakur, his discipline, his determination, the power was coming from his unflinching love for the Supreme Lord, his unflinching love for chanting the holy name of the Lord, which was giving him that determination, which never allowed him to get distracted from all the allurement what he see in front of him. But unfortunately for the Shabra Rishi, his determination and his discipline was coming from avidya, from ignorance. And when it comes from ignorance, there is the downfall which is bound to happen. And what we learn from here, we learn that if we are determined and even if we are disciplined, and we have seen that there are so many people, they practice yoga, they practice meditation, they join so many classes to do so. But the moment the distraction, especially the sensual enjoyment, which is the biggest binding force of a jivatma into this material world, when they come across those kind of provoking situations, they easily are able to give up. Why? Because they don't have the power of discrimination, because they never have faith in the scripture. And when they have no faith in the scripture, they will never have the mercy of the spiritual master and that of the Vaishnavas. So when they don't have that, the discrimination power is no longer there. So even if you are determined and even if they have discipline, is of no use. They are bound to fall down. So what do we understand from today's class? We understand that there are the desire of ours is what is binding us into this material world. And it is only through our faith in the scripture, or how much we learn from the scripture, how much we try to implement. It is not only learning and reading the scripture every day, it is about implementing those instructions in our life. So when we follow the footsteps of acharyas, when we take those instructions and implement that in our life, then only we will get that power of discrimination. And then, of course, how strong is our sadhana, how strong is our chanting, that will give us determination to fight and bind Krishna into our life. That the example of that sparrow, we will be able to win this battle. And most importantly, we need to be disciplined, and to be disciplined, we need to follow the instructions of spiritual master and have devotee association. That is extremely important in our life. So without devotee association, we are bound to fall. In fact, one of the examples which also comes in this context is that of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was a perfect devotee, and he had renounced everything. He was completely detached to his kingdom. He was the king of the entire world. And he has seen that how detached he was with everything. And it was not even that he was attracted to some woman or he had any sensual desire. Just because he had attraction of, because he being a king, and he saw that the deer is also, after all, his praja, it is his subject. And as a father, he wanted to protect that deer. And as a result, he got deer consciousness, and as a result, he got the body of a deer. Now the fall down of Bharat Maharaj would have, it's not that he was not having the knowledge of scripture or determination was not there, but the problem with him was that problem of discipline. Why? Because there was no devotee association in that forest. Mind you, if he had a devotee association, the devotee would have told him that, Prabhuji, what you are doing? You are not doing your sadhana properly. You're not getting up and doing your chanting your round properly. You're not doing your Mangal Arti. And it would have been possible for Bharat Maharaj to not to fall into deer consciousness, and he could have gone back to Godhead in that life itself. Nevertheless, it is the Leela of the Lord which tries to teach us that how important it is to be disciplined in our life. So with this, I will like to stop the class here. And if any realization, any questions, if any devotees have, please unmute it and let me know. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanti. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hare Hare.
Prabhuji, wonderful lecture. Wonderful, even though very small, not very small, it's 40 minutes, good enough. And the examples which were given, they really create determination and discipline within us.
Thank you.
Fortunately, we are in Krishna consciousness,
yes.
And we have the Guru Maharaj to protect us and guide us.
Yes.
So this lecture will enthusiast us,
Thank you, Guru.
Thank you. But one thing, Prabhuji, here, the 3 Ds which you have said,
yes,
is discrimination, determination, and discipline. What about the desire, D?
So the desire is already there. It's not that we are not desire, because we have desire, but these 3 Ds will take this desire. So if you see the first slide, which was the spiritual sky and the material sky, the desire is there. So desire is there even in the spiritual sky, the desire is there even in the material sky, in the material world. It is these 3 Ds which will take our desire from the material conscious to the spiritual conscious. So that is how these 3 boosters are going to lift us to the spiritual world.
Yes, got it.
Yes.
Prabhuji, may I ask you one question, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Prabhuji, generally we try to do many things having some determination at various points in time. But the same level of determination to maintain the tempo, it becomes a bit difficult. Suppose, for example, reading. So this many hours you must read. Like that, we will have a determination, we'll do also for many days. And suddenly then, due to some reason or other, some dilution takes place in the determination. So how to counteract that dilution whenever it is coming. Maybe Maya Devi comes and
Yes.
plays her role.
Yes.
So how do we
So,
counteract her?
so Prabhuji, we need to be, as I said, we need to be disciplined in there. See, it is all interlinked, right? When we have determination, but when the determination, as you rightly said, it is very easy for us to get distracted, and at times to keeping that momentum going for years to come, and to do that. That's why we try to follow the footsteps of our acharyas. We try to follow the footsteps of the Vaishnavas, and that is where we need to have association of devotee. We need to be very disciplined in this. See, we need to understand one thing very clearly, that even to achieve anything in this even in the material life, one requires determination. Without determination we cannot achieve anything. And to do that, right, we are disciplined at times. So even if somebody wants to lose weight, one has to be disciplined. They cannot it takes time, but one has to be disciplined in terms of maintaining the diet and things, and need to exercise regularly. So at times, even the enthusiasm levels will go down, but one has to follow it and make it as a schedule. So for us, the two things what we need to do is, first is we need to follow the instructions of our spiritual master, which goes without saying, and keep our association with devotees very high. So the day we find that we are not struggling for Krishna conscious life, that means we are not progressing. Like Rupilas Prabhuji always says that in our spiritual life, if we are not struggling, which means we are not progressing. So at times when we say that, oh, I'm really struggling, I think, of course, we don't have that kind of, we are still not reached that level where our enthusiasm is so strong that like that of Sukhdev Goswami or Srila Haridas Thakur or, great Vaishnavas, that we are so Krishna conscious that we don't even have to do it. But we need to keep on putting our efforts. We need to be disciplined. The day we are derailed it, Maya is ready to capture us. We are always in the clutches of Maya. It is just that fight is going on. So I always one of the things what I can talk from my personal example is that this story of this sparrow is always inspires me. That I am that sparrow, and I'm letting this ocean to take away the eggs of Krishna consciousness from me, and I'm praying to Guru Maharaj that help me to bring it back. So that is the only thing which can help us to go ahead and do so. But yeah, Maya is very difficult to fight, Prabhuji. So, but we need to continue.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes,
Correct.
thank you.
Priya Mataji, unmute कीजिए.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandrat Pranam.
Dandrat Pranam, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, very beautiful and nice lecture. In fact, I was looking for something like this since long, and very good examples you have given.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, I have some basic questions, in my sadhana, which are going little haywire, because now one is getting up early. Sometimes it's 4:15, sometimes it's 5:30. There's a great, vast difference. So anything that can be done about this,
So one way of doing things is that try to have your dinner by 6:37 in the evening, and have a very light dinner. Maybe whatever you're eating, take 50% of that, because what happens is the clock, the body clock, and then pray to the Lord that please help me in getting up at time. And when you are actually have a very light meal, it becomes easy for us to get up early in the morning. If you have seen that if you have a very heavy meal especially in the dinner time, it becomes really difficult to get up early in the morning. Yeah, I mean, try to set an alarm 15-20 minutes before, and maybe set 2-3 different alarm, and keep the alarm away from the bed, so that you have to get up and switch it off, so that then you don't feel like going back. So
yeah, that's
how,
a nice idea, in fact, and you gave a
Yeah.
great example of Srila Prabhupada, also so disciplined.
Yeah, he was like, and it was so, and he said that, like how Prabhupada said that if I allow this, it is everything will come to an end, everything will be finished. Why? Because then the devotees will think that, oh, it is okay to skip Mangalarti. And then, they'll say, oh, it is okay to skip, the Guru Puja, it is okay to skip hearing the Bhagavatam class, it is okay to do. Why Prabhupada made such a fantastic schedule for us, so that we are disciplined. Right? Prabhupada didn't require himself to do all this. He is already a great Acharya. But to discipline us, he had made this entire timetable. So this timetable should be there in front of us every single day, that there should not be any digression from this. And that's how we need to be doing so. And
Okay.
actually, Mataji, one thing I can tell you, it is not that getting up is difficult. It is actually the mind which says that I'm tired, I need to. It is the mind which restricts us to do that. So the best thing is just don't pay attention to the mind. When it rings, just get up and just immediately don't return back to the bed. Right.
Okay. And this alarm should be a habit, because sometimes overconfidence, no, I will get up on my own, but then the mind.
Set an alarm. That's nothing wrong in doing so.
Okay. Okay. And very small, another thing, like how to maintain the consistency in bhakti, as in chanting. I finish my chanting, then if I go to some aartis, it's already breakfast is done. Then if I read something, so much housework, lunch is finished, and then little more of seva, telecalling for the courses, the whole day is finished. So what is the benchmark for analyzing that, okay, I'm progressing, I'm doing much, if not even quantity more than what I did yesterday, but how do I what is the right benchmark for myself to know that, okay, I'm progressing in bhakti, because the whole day
So,
goes, and it's like just chanting, reading and seva, but then how am I progressing? How do I know
so
that?
Mataji, you are already progressing. You are very humble that you are saying that you are not progressing. As you rightly said, that if your entire day is going in doing Krishna conscious activity, what else do you require? So you are definitely progressing a great deal. Um, it is always good that we always consider, benchmark. We should always keep benchmark as our Siksha Guru as our benchmark. So, keep the senior devotees as a benchmark. Ask them that how they are progressing, inquire from them, and try to it's not imitating them, but try to follow their footsteps of what kind of sadhana they are doing, what kind of bhakti they are doing. Like, Rupilas Prabhuji is such a great example for all of us. He is a grahastha, and the way he does take care of his deity worship, he does the way he conduct classes, he manages so many things, he is heading the entire congregation with so many responsibilities. He is a perfect role model for us, and we should be aspiring that how Prabhuji is doing it, and we also should get inspired that someday we need to keep a benchmark that someday I'll be able to reach at what level he is. So that is how we need to be doing so. So the one way of looking at things is always one is uh, how good your chanting is. So if you are able to chant more with more concentration, that means you are progressing very nicely. So if you're chanting 6 out of 16 rounds, 8 rounds are very attentive chanting, 8 rounds are mechanical. Maybe after some days you are able to chant 10 rounds very nicely, which means you are progressing. So the goal is that entire 16 rounds should come with complete attention or complete attentiveness.
Okay.
Then we know that we are progressing very nicely.
So suppose finishing 16 rounds and I read, chant, do the household work. Now after I read some shlokas or whatever, what was my capacity and chanting and
Then you
doing
should
some.
preach, Mataji. After doing so, you try to preach, because
Yeah.
preaching has no limit. I mean, there is no, see, in our ISKCON, in our Krishna conscious life, the beauty is there is no deficit of seva. See, this is the only thing which is available in abundance. Like, you have so many sevas to do. So practically 24 hours a day, you can actually engage yourself in seva. That is the power of our ISKCON. That there are so many sevas to do. So when you complete one seva, you can always jump into the second one. Maybe preaching others, distributing books, and of course, doing so many things.
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam.
Dandavad Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, very, very nice lecture, Prabhuji. I
Thank you,
wanted to
Mataji.
know one thing, Prabhuji, that now you said that we should not associate with
Material people.
material people. But
Yes.
we have started just now, like some time back only. So what we should not talk with our friends, our friend circle, and we should not associate.
No, it's not about not socializing. See, it's not that we need to keep social distance from them. It's not that way. It is about uh, keeping our interaction with them to a point of uh, ideally keep it as much as required, not getting more and more socializing with them, to a great distance. Because, see, if it starts, see, there are two ways of looking at it. If it starts getting more and more socializing with them, then it will become One, if you are able to bring them into Krishna conscious life, then definitely you need to associate. But if it is affecting your sadhana, if it is affecting your spiritual life, then that is where you need to take a break. That is where the power of discrimination will come in. That if you see that, okay, you need not have to compromise on doing your sadhana. So even if with your when you are with your relatives, or whether it is your friends or family members, whoever it is, if they are having tea, coffee, they are eating food which is of onion, garlic, you need not have to compromise saying that, oh, how if they, what if they will feel bad. In fact, many times it has happened, especially I can tell you from my own life, traveling around the world and things, it becomes so difficult at times. And uh, but people do respect that. They say they don't feel offended about that. Oh, he is not eating. And I say I'm very clear that I cannot compromise on my food habits. I cannot compromise on having tea, coffee, or any form of intoxication which you are having on the name of socializing. The fact is that there is nothing wrong in doing so, but it should not impact your bhakti. And on the contrary, use that opportunity to make them Krishna conscious or help them in bringing it back. Because what happens normally is that when you stop doing so, especially if you are having you or find you said that I'm not going to eat onion garlic, I'll stop things. So obviously the relatives will ask, like, what happened? And that's a very good opportunity to preach, it's to preach Krishna consciousness to them.
Okay.
Who knows? Out of maybe they ridicule you, they may laugh about it, they may say that, oh, you have lost your mind. Things they may say a lot of things, but maybe out of 10, one may say that, oh, I'm interested in knowing more. And so may you get an opportunity to bring one save one fallen soul in and bring that person back into Krishna consciousness. So it's an opportunity. Does that ensure that entanglement should not impact us? That is the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we should not compromise on our spiritual life. That's the only thing.
No, but if
Otherwise,
there is some party or anything like that, Prabhuji.
see, I'm saying there is nothing wrong in going to the parties. So what I'm saying is that there is nothing wrong. But when you go to the party, ensure that either you can carry your own prasadam with you. If not, then at least ensure that whatever is given to you is made sattvic. At least it is not made onion garlic, and maybe because you not have altar there, but at least through your mind you can offer that to the Lord and then take that as a prasadam. But it's very important that you don't accept the food which is just because they have cooked and given to you. So make that expectations very clear to the host so that they don't feel offended when you go there, or they should not feel that you are puffed up about things, because they may take that also as in a very negative way. So you need to be a little tactful about handling that kind of situation.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Prabhu.
So anyone else would like to ask questions?
I think we can say 3 times Haribol for the Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hari Bol.
Everybody can unmute and say
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol,
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
His Grace Daya Murari Prabhuji ki jai.
His Grace Shila Rupa Goswami. Hare Krishna. Shila Rupa. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. We are able to hear.
No, I'm just saying just say 3 times Hari Bol to Vipulas Prabhuji and to Guru Maharaj and Shila Prabhuji.
Right.
Okay.
Very good to all devotees and interested. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Leela Manor Prabhu, please close YouTube.
YouTube, yes, people will close it.